Prism, and welcome back to Prism's Media Spotlight. Today, well, rather, I should say, again, we are going to be taking a look at another Disney animated classic in my series, Reviewing the Classics, where I am going through every single Walt Disney Animation Studios film. Maybe one or two will be missed, but pretty much all of them, reviewing them and giving my honest thoughts. Now today, what we're going to be reviewing is this week's prescribed film, Disney's Dumbo, the fourth animated Disney feature film from 1941, and the animated film that kind of saved the studio after the box office failure of Fantasia. Now, I should say that Dumbo is definitely a different film to Fantasia. It's more of a narrative-focused film, but I would actually also say, to give you a brief spoiler, it is the worst of the narrative-driven films up to this point. I would say that Fantasia is different. Dumbo is going back to normal, what we're used to, a narrative film, but I think it's the worst at trying to do this. I will explain why, but let's get into my review of Walt Disney's classic, Dumbo. Alright, so I'll say this, off the cuff. I like Dumbo. I don't love Dumbo. We've established that. I think what it gets best is the heartfelt relationship between the mother and baby elephant and the idea of the negative effects of bullying. I think those are the strong points. Everything else kind of falls apart. I don't really care about seeing Dumbo fly. I don't really care about, the whole pink elephant parade sequence. Like, yeah, it's scary, but it isn't really funny, and even if it is, it doesn't add anything. In fact, I would say it's kind of problematic because it makes getting drunk look like comedy. And of course, this was the 1940s. We know a lot better now. That was just kind of the thing back then, that alcohol was kind of treated like comedy in a lot of features and television. But nowadays, it's like, should we really be making this many jokes about alcohol? Having an entire sequence where two characters get completely drunk in a kid's film? But like I said, I don't want to talk about the politics too much, but that's a very, very prominent part of the film. Dumbo getting drunk. And it's never really addressed that, hey, this is a bad thing. No, it's just kind of hey, let's have a fun sequence with it. But I do think the relationship between Dumbo and Jumbo is really strong. I do think you really get the feels for the love of the mother elephant towards Dumbo. I think you really feel it in the scenes, especially when they start playing Baby Mine. It's really emotional. When Dumbo's crying, it's honestly a little bit emotional because he just looks so cute, but also he's a really likable character. While you may not have a lot to really like him for, like they don't give him a whole character arc or all these different things, they make him almost like a kid who looks different to other people, and so he's bullied, and you want to sympathize with them. You want to feel empathy for them. Like, you feel bad for them because they're being bullied for no reason. Bullying never has a reason, but you know what I mean? Like, you want to feel for Dumbo, and you do. You do feel for Dumbo, and I think that's the strongest part of this picture. And I think Walt made a very good decision making this picture, because it does play on the human emotion, as all his films do, but it really plays on the human emotion of, hey, this is something that is really hard for people. Bullying, separation from your family, like, these are really deep themes. Obviously under a Disney cloth, but you know what I mean. They really have something to say. Like, it's a really emotional film. But then, of course, you get back to the 64-minute runtime, and you get to the narrative. Like, what does the narrative really end up being? Dumbo learns to fly. Okay, cool, I guess. But I don't know if that really has a strong message with it. I don't know if it does. Because the message inevitably ends up being that you're strong because you have a capability that others don't. And that takes away the bullying factor. Like, they trade Dumbo feeling really bad because he's bullied all the time to Dumbo's in show business. And I don't think that's that's a great message, and I don't think that's how simple it is. Right? Like, if you are, I don't know, let's give an example. If you are called funny because your eyes look different, right? You need to learn to deal with that, and you are cool because you have different eyes. But you can't suddenly just shoot lasers out of them and then have everyone be like, "Oh, you are actually really special, and we should actually like you a lot more." Now, to be fair, yeah, people would be very interested if someone could shoot lasers out of their eyes. But my point is that this film tries to make its message that Dumbo is immune from the bullying by the end because he learns he has a special talent, when a lot of the time that isn't the case, right? A lot of the time you're just bullied because you look different, because you sound different, you smell different, and there isn't some magical power that you have that can alleviate that bullying. And obviously, that's Disney. I don't think he was trying to offend the audience. I don't think he was trying to be stupid. But I am saying that from a narrative perspective, like, if we're trying to fully tell a story about bullying and its, effects, it's like, you know what, I'm more interested in it? I'm more interested in how Timothy, the little mouse, I think that's his name, I'm more interested in how he likes Dumbo for who he is. Like, he is able to see Dumbo for who he is. Yes, he has big ears, bigger than the other elephants, but he thinks that he looks cool. And he doesn't need a magic feather. He doesn't need Dumbo to fly. He just thinks that, hey, you're cool, and I like you, and he wants to help Dumbo find, a talent. But that goes back to the issue of the narrative where it feels like it becomes a story about Dumbo finding some magic ability. Dumbo finding some magic purpose, and that alleviating his sense of being bullied. And that's, I think, my biggest issue with Dumbo. That and the runtime and the very clear bits of racism in the film, which I'm not going to get into, but there are at least two portions where it does get uncomfortable. There's one that people don't mention a lot, and that's the scene where they're building the circus. Yeah, just having a bunch of black characters that have no faces and seeing how they're about happy to work and they throw their pay away. Yeah, that isn't the best look for that issue. That's not a really good look at all. Like, that one I will advocate that sequence really does not feel appropriate. The Crows, I can understand how some people feel like, hey, they're cool, or hey, there were black actors that were voice acting some of them, but you know what I mean. I don't like the circus building sequence. But that's kind of my thoughts on Dumbo. I know they're a little bit more muddled. It's a more muddled film, honestly, because you have like one moment where you're crying because of Baby Mine, and then Dumbo gets drunk. Like, and actually, let me highlight that really quick, because that's the big issue with the film again. That, like Pinocchio, we have an inciting incident. And we spend a lot of time with Dumbo getting bullied and him dealing with that. And then you have the show that he kind of messes up. And then he goes to see his mother. Then he's sad. Then they get drunk. And then you wake up. Oh, here's the crows. Get the magic feather. Psychological thing, it'll make him think he can fly. But then when he doesn't have it, he can still fly. Anyways, and then you have the ending of the film. This is way too fast. You're doing things way too fast. You didn't need the Dumbo getting drunk sequence. You needed more time with Dumbo to develop as a character. You needed more time to explain the magic feather or how it works psychologically. Like, you needed to do something besides, let's have a fun animation sequence with pink elephants. That doesn't work when your runtime's 64 minutes. I know it lightens the mood, but my other issue is, okay, but you're not lightening the mood with something that is important, I think. And maybe that's the point of it, that it's just kind of meant to be so out there and so weird. But once again, I'm like, if you only have an hour and 4 minutes to tell the story, use all of that time to actually contribute to the story. Because getting drunk does nothing. It does nothing for the film. It alleviates the tension, but honestly, when I was watching it, I was just saying, what the heck, like 3 times. Because it was just so bizarre And it's not like, oh, it's a 1 minute sequence. No, it goes on for like 5 to 7 minutes. And it's like, what are they even doing? Like, what are they doing with this film? It's just, oh, we have pink elephants and they're all dancing around and it's a big parade. And it's just like, what on earth are you doing? I appreciate the talent of the animators, but maybe don't use your talent to make a completely bizarre sequence that adds nothing to the plot. I don't know. That's me with Dumbo. I do think it could be a stronger film. I do think it is one that necessitates a live action remake. It did get one. I'm not going to talk about it here. But, you know, that's Dumbo. That's my honest thoughts on it. I hope you enjoyed this. My name's been Prism. And next week you can expect me to cover the Walt Disney Animation Studios classic, Bambi. Bye!